Welcome to the Crack House Chronicles, your favorite true crime podcast. I am Donnie, and with me is a man that wants to remind everyone that Halloween is the safest holiday because you get free candy without having to get into someone's van. It's Dale.
Yep, that's right. You just got to go to the front door and ask for it.
Yeah, that's right, bud.
Never mind the driveway, kid. Come on up here to the front
Just
door.
come in the house.
Yeah. Ding dong.
Yeah.
What's going on, man?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm pretty good, I guess. I got a little bucket of candy for you.
Yeah. Just leave it on the front porch.
Leave it on the front porch.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just leave an empty bowl and just put a sign that says, take one piece.
Yeah. Damn it.
Yeah.
Go away.
Yeah.
Buy your own. Yeah, I seen one the other day. I think it had a little vending machine, like the thing you stick the quarter in and spin the ball or whatever.
Yeah.
Yes, at times it's hard. Buy your own damn candy. That was pretty good.
That would be good. Just put a vending machine out there and make some money.
Yeah. But they...
Yeah, that would work.
You'd have to give them quarters.
You got any good shout outs, bud? Anybody you want to talk about?
Yeah, man, we got a few, maybe one or two. Let me see. We would like to give a shout out to our buddy Sean Harrisman. He gave us a 5-star, basically a Facebook recommendation. Said the best true crime podcast ever.
Ever?
Yeah, ever. That's what he said anyway.
Okay.
So we'll go with that.
We'll take it.
How about that, dog?
I like it.
Yeah. You can tell we got big budget now.
Yeah.
Anyway, and also I'd like to give a shout out to all our YouTube listeners. Man, you guys are awesome. We broke 100,000 views this week, and still running good. So I think that is a pretty dang good accomplishment.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty proud of that, and I really appreciate you guys.
We appreciate all our listeners, man.
Yeah, no matter how you check it out.
Yeah,
it's
we
amazing.
do. And everybody that's telling everybody about word of mouth, about us, sharing, whatever.
Really, probably, I would say probably word of mouth is probably the best way, actually.
Yeah, I think it is.
Yeah, because, people going to believe you if you just tell them, if you just smash and share. We appreciate that, too. But, word of mouth that's like the gospel,
Yeah, if you got a buddy that listens to podcasts, say, hey, you got to check this podcast out.
Yeah, and if I don't, they need to be.
Yeah. Yeah, we appreciate everybody.
That's right.
And we'll remind everybody that if you do listen to us on Apple Podcast, click that 5-star and leave a rate and review. Write something in the box.
In the box.
Yep, it's got to be in the box.
Yes.
And that's the way it counts. And we get notified, and we will give you a shout out.
Yeah, even if you're thinking outside the box, write it in the box.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And if anybody wants to go to the store page and buy them something cool, get you something for winter, get you a hoodie.
Yep.
Get you a coffee mug, put some hot chocolate in it or something.
That's right.
Yep. It sure helps us out. Keeps the lights on, and we appreciate it a bunch.
Man, I drank some coffee the other day. I don't drink coffee, but it was pretty good.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind it was. Wife gave it to me.
Also, we have a Patreon now. If anybody wants to go over there and help out that way.
Yes.
We got 2 episodes on there now. We're trying to keep that going.
Yeah, get a little more stuff on there.
Yeah, and you can also go to the website and leave some money in the gas jar.
Yeah, that's all very appreciated.
Very appreciated. Other than that, Dale, we're going to get on with our episode.
Well, you better, somebody will be a bitching.
Yep, because this
Your
week...
2 minutes are up.
This week, man, we got a rough one.
Yeah. So much for heroes and feel good shows.
Yeah, this one's tough, so it's just a warning. This is your only warning.
Yeah, we don't use the trigger word much, but you might want to back up on this one.
Our only trigger warning is we're a true crime podcast, so you should know what you're getting into.
That's right.
Yeah, but this one is rough.
Yeah, no triggers in this one, just knives.
Yep. Yep. All right, dude, in this episode, we are talking about Danny Rolling. Danny Rolling. And just a little bit of background on Danny Rolling. He was born on May the 26th of 1954 in Shreveport, Louisiana, to parents James Rolling and his mother Claudia Rolling. And just like other cases we've had, it wasn't a good childhood, dude.
No,
right from the get-go, it wasn't a good childhood.
No, his dad didn't even want kids.
No. But his mom was only 19 years old when she got pregnant with him.
Right.
And it was a pretty rough pregnancy. And even when he was born, I think it was reported they had used some forceps to deliver him.
Yeah, had to pop him out. Yeah, his dad was pretty rough. He was a local police officer, a former, I think he was an Army vet.
Yeah, in Korea.
Yeah.
I think a decorated Army veteran in Korea. Yeah.
But his home life was nothing to be honorable, that's for damn sure.
No.
I mean, he beat his wife, beat his kids, beat his dogs. If he was there and you was in the house, he was getting beat or berated.
But yeah, the first incident of physical abuse toward Danny was when he was just 1 year old. He started crawling, and his dad, James, didn't like the way he was crawling.
Yeah.
So he beat him.
Yeah, because that makes sense.
Yeah, he was one to, I think, just sit there and kind of scoot across the floor.
Yeah, he was just starting.
Yeah, but he didn't like it.
Nope. So it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so bad that even I think when he was born, his dad even went over to his mom and said, "We're not taking that thing home."
Yeah.
He didn't want no kids.
Yeah.
But apparently he didn't know what was causing them.
Evidently not. But get this. When Danny was 1 year old, Claudia gave birth to a second son.
Right.
His name was Kevin.
Kevin. Yeah, like I said, he must didn't know what was causing him.
No, but James' dad seemed to be more violent towards Danny than Kevin. But because of all this, when Danny was 4, Claudia left James because of the abuse. And she stayed gone for about 6 months.
Yeah, but she always come back home, didn't she?
Yeah, he would claim to change his ways, and she went back.
Right.
But there were several things that took place around this time. Danny's father tied him up about 6 times in a 6-month period. And there was another situation. Danny tried stealing a candy bar and was caught by his parents.
Yeah, I mean, they made him go back to the store and apologize to the owner, which is, what you should do.
Exactly.
So here he's looking like Mr. Honorable, but I'm sure when he got back home, it wasn't good.
He got his ass whipped, probably.
Yeah, this is when he was just 5 years old. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also when Danny was 5 years old, this was in December of 1959, his dad came home with a puppy that he had found, I guess, while he was on his police shift.
Right.
And Danny got pretty attached to this dog right away.
Right, yeah, we had a friend he could talk to, and it wouldn't smack him.
Yeah.
Just come around and, just your little buddy.
But his dad constantly beat the dog.
Yeah.
And according to Danny and some neighbors, James's dad later killed the dog by repeated torture.
Yeah, well, he beat it so bad that it actually died in little Danny's arms.
That's sad.
That's
When I first heard
awful.
that killed me, man.
Yeah. Yeah, we as much bad stuff as we talk about, just the animal stuff's pretty rough sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was reported that James refused to show any emotion toward his kids. He wouldn't hug them or anything. He said that was sissy stuff.
Yeah, well, he didn't even believe in love. He told his wife, love ain't real. Love is just somebody wanting something from somebody.
Yeah.
So, I was like, well, I guess you know why you got kids, because you acting like you love her.
Yep.
That's all you want.
Now, when Danny was 8 years old, this was in 1962, Claudia left James again because of all of his violent behavior. But they eventually got back together and moved to Shreveport. And Claudia admitted later on that Danny was suffering physical abuse at least once or twice a week at the hands of James, his father.
They're not allowed to have any birthdays or any holidays or nothing like that.
Man, that's just... Ain't no wonder this Danny Rolling is messed up.
I know it, man.
Yeah.
All because of his damn daddy.
Yep. And because of all the violence, Claudia left James again with the boys. And she even packed up the Christmas tree. This was on Christmas Day of 1963.
Right.
She packed up the Christmas tree and left. But she didn't stay gone as long as other times.
Right. The Christmas the next year she left again.
Yeah.
So it's just continually.
Yeah. So this is telling you what they're going through.
Yeah. It's continually on and off, on and off.
Yeah.
Well, basically him just beating the hell out of them and then saying, sorry, I'll change, probably.
Yep. Now, in 1963, when Danny was 9 years old, his mom, Claudia, suffered a nervous breakdown. And Danny had even failed the 3rd grade. Okay.
He had missed a bunch of days, and his teacher had actually told her that it would be best if he just repeated the 3rd grade.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Claudia suffered a nervous breakdown, because she didn't want to tell her daddy.
Yeah.
Tell his daddy.
Because he knew what was coming down.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
she knew it was just going to be that much worse.
Yeah. And it was recommended that Danny receive some kind of counseling, but he never did. And Claudia again left with the boys.
Yeah, because he was suffering from inferiority complex and with some aggressive tendencies.
Yeah. Now, when Danny was 10 years old, he was his dad was trying to teach him and his brother how to drive. And his dad slapped him in the face and berated him for not knowing how to use a clutch at 10 years old.
At 10. How many people today even know how to use a clutch?
I know.
Except for us old folks.
Yeah. And When Danny was 10, he failed the third grade again, and during this time, Claudia left James again, and Danny begged his mother not to go back home to his dad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But she went back again. Now, when he was 11 years old, this was in 1965, Danny had walked in on his parents having an argument. And this is when his mother had slit her wrist with a razor and then locked herself in the bathroom.
Yeah. I think she locked herself in there, and then figured that was probably her only way out.
Yeah.
You know, and then I'm sure he just ended up knocking the damn door down.
Yeah, and he continued to argue with her while she was laying there bleeding.
Yeah.
And Danny watched his mom lay there on the floor bleeding.
Yep.
But his mom, Claudia, was committed to a hospital, and Danny tried to stop his father from beating his mother, and in return was beaten for getting in the way.
Yep. He just can't win.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, about this time, Danny he started playing guitar too, you know.
Yeah.
And he would sing his prayers and stuff. But he also started to fantasize about sadistic violence, and his fantasies became more sexually violent. But
yeah.
He did begin to have some serious alcohol problems too, and this is at 11.
11 years old.
So I guess he stole it from his friends, or got it from friends, or stole it, or what?
I would imagine, yeah.
So 11 is pretty damn young to be drinking.
Yeah. I guess it's the only way to escape, man.
Yeah, I guess.
Now, when Danny was 12, his dad beat him for not getting a haircut for school. And he beat Danny with a belt buckle and then shaved his head. And it was reported that the kids teased him and picked on him and called him names like Sasquatch or Bigfoot. So, yeah,
poor kid, man.
Yeah, him and his brother, man, and even Claudia, man, they had it rough.
Yeah, they sure did.
Now, in September of 1966, Danny's father found him drinking with a friend, and he dragged Danny home by the neck and was thrown in jail for 2 weeks. Danny refused to talk to his mother. And this is when he grabbed his knapsack and he ran away from home. And Danny spent his first night in the nearby woods. And this is when he started masturbating to fantasies he had. These fantasies were of killing people and controlling them, Dale.
And he's 12.
12 years old. And he returned home when he got hungry and he couldn't find anything to eat.
Right.
So he didn't have nowhere else to go. And it was even reported, Dale, that when him and his brother Kevin were young teenagers, their dad James handcuffed them together on the floor after not cutting their grass the way that their dad liked it. And their dad even knelt on top of them and would just stop them from breathing, you know.
Crazy.
Yeah, torture them. Crazy, man. He didn't have a chance.
No.
All right, now, when Danny was 14, I think this is when things started to change a little bit for him. This was the first time that Danny had saw a girl naked for the first time. And this is when he began peeking through a neighbor's bathroom window. And he was caught twice by the neighbors.
And guess what?
Danny's father beat the crap out of him.
Yep.
And Danny was beaten by his father and attempted suicide, but failed.
Mm-hmm.
But Danny was having dreams of people beating him and torturing him with demons going through him. And Danny was thrown out of the house by his father after a fight over whether he could wear jeans to church. But Danny's mom would sneak him in the house late at night so he could get back in, I guess, to sleep or do what he needed to do.
I guess.
Yeah. Now, when Danny was 15, he got a guitar for Christmas, which I don't know. They didn't celebrate anything. I don't know how he got a guitar for Christmas.
No.
But it was reported he got a guitar for Christmas when he was 15. And he taught himself how to play, and he would write his own songs. When he was 15, Danny got a job at a local Dairy Queen, and he had to quit after a week because his father made him, because his grades had started to drop off.
In a week.
Yeah.
I don't think that job had nothing to do with them grades.
No.
He was much of a school guy.
Now, when Danny was 17, this was on March the 1st of 1971, he threatened his father that if he did not sign him up for the Navy, he would run away from home for good.
Yeah. He had already dropped out of high school.
Yeah.
But he did get his GED, but he was ready to go get into service.
But Danny failed the Navy enlistment test.
Yeah, so then he joined the Air Force.
Yeah. And this was in Lackland Air Force Base in Texas. And there he worked security police and strategic air command at Homestead Air Force Base in Florida. And he became a airman first class. but he got to taking acid
Yeah.
and other
Lots.
drugs. And he even tripped on acid over 100 times, it was reported.
Yeah. He was really liking that.
Yep. And Danny was locked up for drug possession charge and for disobeying orders and lost a stripe. And he was even diagnosed by a psychiatrist as having a personality disorder. But he was forced to leave under an honorable discharge.
Right.
And after discharge, he returned to Shreveport to live with his grandfather. And this is when there was some things that changed. He had actually found religion at a local Pentecostal church.
Right. I think he was walking one night in
Like hitching a ride.
yeah, and one of the pastors picked him up and asked him where he was going, and he told him he just needed a ride. And as they drive, they went by his church, and he pulled in and asked him if he wanted to go in and pray with him.
Yeah.
And he did, because he said he didn't have nothing else to do. So he went in and done that and prayed for a while, and went back the next day and got baptized.
Yeah.
Yeah, he thought times are gonna change, and this is really what I need.
Yeah, and he was really active in the church for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
He started driving a bus for the church, and
Yes.
he would pick up, I guess, people coming to church and bring them to church, and
Yeah, kids and even other people who couldn't get a ride.
yeah, just bring them back and forth.
Right.
And I think we'd heard that he even dressed up as the Easter Bunny one year.
Sure did.
Yeah, so he was pretty active in the church, and this seemed to really help him.
Yeah. Well, hell, what I mean, ain't a whole lot that could hurt him at this point.
Yeah,
I mean,
this is
he's
true.
had a damn rough life.
Yeah, but while he was in church, he was praying to God that God would bring him a woman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was needing that partnership in his life.
Some companionship. Yeah.
Yeah, and this is when he met a woman named Amatha Ann Halco. Her name was Amatha, Omatha. I've never heard that name before.
No.
They had met, and they seemed to hit it off pretty quick.
Yeah, sure did.
Yeah, he was pretty smitten with her, and it wasn't long. They got engaged and they got married.
Yeah, the next year.
Yeah, and they had a daughter by the name of Kylie Danielle that was born in 1975. And this is when Danny began to feel the pressure of working 2 jobs to support his family.
Yeah.
And he began drinking and smoking marijuana again. And he left the church and acted so irrational that Amatha became afraid of him. And Danny would run off for hours or days without telling anybody where he went.
Yeah, it even would threaten her life, she asked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so here, some stuff's coming back to haunt him now.
Yeah. Because the next year in 1976, Danny was caught peeking into windows.
Again.
And he was returned home by a police officer. Yep.
Yeah, to his wife. That's
Yeah.
not good.
Yeah, they didn't arrest him because his father was on the force.
Right.
But they just returned him home and told his wife what he was doing. And this wasn't a good thing, you know.
No, he got home and he started claiming he saw stuff like UFOs and demons and ghosts and stuff. And his wife called his parents when he stopped going to work, and his dad come over and put a knife to his throat.
James wasn't putting up with that stuff,
He
man.
ain't putting up with that mess. And he was 22 years old this time.
Yeah, just 22.
Yeah.
And when he was 23, Danny put a gun to his wife's head and threatened to kill her.
Yeah.
And an ex-boyfriend when he caught them having an affair.
Right.
And he beat up the ex-boyfriend and Amatha after she threatened to leave him, and then turned the gun on himself. And,
Yeah, he's playing the old sympathy card here.
Yeah.
Well, if you leave me, I'm just going to shoot myself.
Yeah.
Right.
But Amatha filed for separation, and this was pretty devastating to Danny.
Mm-hmm.
But they were divorced 6 months later, and it was after the divorce Danny was in a bad car accident, which resulted in a woman's death. And he was pretty tormented by this. He was driving a delivery van.
I think he was driving a delivery truck.
Yeah, truck or van or something.
And he come around to a thing, and the traffic was stopped. He didn't realize he hit the back of a van, and a woman was ejected from the van.
And
it killed her.
Killed her on impact.
Yeah.
Yeah, she fell out of the van.
Right, and wasn't nothing he can do. It was an accident, but he was always tormented by this.
They never charged him for anything.
Right.
Now, on May the 25th of 1979, Danny robbed a Winn-Dixie supermarket in Montgomery, Alabama, and he got away with $800.
Right.
And then just a few days later, on May the 31st of 1979, he robbed another Winn-Dixie in Columbus, Georgia. It was a half hour later he was arrested by 3 officers and confessed to armed robberies in Alabama and Georgia and Louisiana.
Yeah, all 3.
Yeah. And Danny was sentenced to 2 concurrent 6-year terms for armed robberies. The first time his mother saw him in prison, she described him as thin and distressed. And by her visit, he had put on weight and was bodybuilding, and he seemed to have learned to cope with prison life.
Yeah, by her second visit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, later that year, in October of 1979, he escaped from a road gang while they were chopping down trees, and he surrendered about 100 yards from the prison's boundaries after a guard fired a warning shot at him.
Yeah, so he didn't really escape. He was just running for a little bit.
Yeah. The next year, May of next year, he was sent to Reidsville prison for about 6 months, and there he was almost raped while he was in prison. And he also tried to kill a cat that hung around the prison by throwing rocks at it.
He should have got raped.
Yeah, he should have.
He was killing the cat.
Now, when Danny was 26, he got caught trying to escape the Montgomery County Jail, and this is when he was sent to the hole for several weeks, and he even spent Thanksgiving in the hole for fighting.
And by the hole, you mean solitary?
Yeah, solitary confinement. They call it the hole, yeah.
Yeah.
Now, on June the 7th of 1984, Danny was released from the Alabama prison, and he returned to Shreveport to see his mother and father, and he stayed there for a short time until him and his father James got into another fight. And he stayed with his aunt Agnes until eventually turning back to his parents. And in November of 1984, Danny broke into a young girl's home after watching her for several hours. I guess he was peeping into windows again.
Yeah.
And his intent was to rape her, but she started crying and felt bad, and he decided not to rape her.
Yeah, he felt bad.
Yeah, instead, they talked and had a cup of coffee and sang songs with each other and then engaged in consensual sex. But he was getting into all kinds of trouble. He even robbed a Kroger supermarket, and there was one point Danny stole the keys to the family car and took off in it, and police arrested him. And he was robbing more supermarkets, and he actually was sentenced to 4 years in Jackson County Jail. And he escaped jail by simply walking off and swimming the Snake River that ran through Jackson, Mississippi.
That was in 86, and then coming up on 88.
Yeah, so a couple years later, on July the 19th of 88, Danny was paroled from the Mississippi Penitentiary under the conditions that he would return to Shreveport, and he did not have much success finding a job at all.
I wonder why.
Yeah, I wonder. But now, Danny did get a job working in a restaurant, but he was fired from it because his boss claimed that he missed 3 consecutive days of work.
Right. Now, this was a year later.
Yeah. But Danny claimed that the boss had changed his hours and he didn't know about it.
Right. He got really pissed off.
He even threatened to kill some coworkers there.
Yeah, he was going to kill the manager and the cook.
Yeah.
He was just in a rage.
But no charges were ever filed for the threats.
No. But this is definitely the little spot in the road that things are fixing to pick up.
Yep.
Big time.
Now we're moving up to November the 6th of 1989. And this is when there were 3 lives taken. And their names were William, Julie, and Sean Grissom.
Right.
Now, William, who went by Tom Grissom, he was a 55-year-old man. He was divorced, and he was a AT&T supervisor who lived on Beth Lane in Shreveport, Southern Hills neighborhood. And everybody described him as being a polite guy, friendly, respectable. But he'd also been battling throat cancer for years, but it had been reported that he was doing better with that, and also nearing retirement. He had a daughter who was 24 years old. Her name was Julie, and she was a young, petite brunette, and she'd been studying marketing at Louisiana State University in Shreveport. But she had transferred to Shreveport earlier in 1989 after attending Baton Rouge campus and was working part-time at a Dillard's in South Park Mall. And she was very close to graduating, Dale.
Yep.
Now, another person at that house, his name was Sean Grissom, and he was a 3rd grader at Turner Elementary, and he was just visiting there with his grandfather and his Aunt Julie for the weekend as part of a recent birthday. It's like I don't know what kind of deal they had, but he was just there.
Right.
But he was supposed to return home on Monday, November the 6th of 1989. Now, at around 8:30 that morning, Sean's mother called the police after making multiple unanswered calls to her father-in-law's house and learning from Sean's school that he wasn't in class.
Right. Yeah, they had called her from school to let her know that he was not in class.
Yeah. Now, the police had reached out to neighbors asking them to see if they could see anything there. The the house was unlocked or anything. And approximately 8:45 a.m., 3 neighbors went over to the house to check on the family and open the door to the utility room off the garage. And this is when they discovered Tom Grissom.
Right. And the little background to this whole thing, he being Danny had been stalking this girl for a while. And he knew where she lived, he knew where she worked. He'd been stalking her around South Park Mall. So I think this is when he made up his mind he was going to go to her house.
Mm-hmm.
And when he got there, he didn't realize all these people were there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when he had got there, Tom had been out on the backyard, I guess. It had been reported that he was grilling some steaks.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean, the little 8-year-old, he was in the den or living room there watching TV.
Correct.
So he stabbed Tom in the back.
Several times.
Back and chest several times.
Yeah.
And Sean was found face down, like we said, in the family room with one knife to the back, and it even went through his chest.
Yeah, this was he's using a military-style K-bar knife. It's pretty big, like a hunting, kind of a Rambo-style knife.
Yeah.
So one pretty long blade, one shot through the back, went all the way through.
Yep. Now, Julie's body was found naked and partially hanging off a bed.
Yep.
And she was stabbed at least 3 times in the back and was left facing up.
Yep.
And her body had been wiped down with vinegar.
Right, like you tried to wash it or something.
Yeah, yeah. But that evening, she was planning to go out to a high school friend's wedding and was even picked out a dress to wear. So she had plans that night, but she didn't show up.
Right. Yeah, and when they found her, she was like, partially, like you said, hanging off the bed, but also legs spread and kind of posed.
Yeah.
So she was naked, but, it was just kind of make it a little worse.
Yeah. Now, the detectives, they believe that these 3 were killed around 6 to 8 p.m. the Saturday before their bodies were found. And there were no signs of forced entry, no ransacking, or no robbery. And there was some kind of indication of a struggle, but the overall scene was noted as being neat.
Right.
But that Monday, all the neighbors watched from beyond the tape perimeter the shock and belief as first responders moved the bodies from the home. I can't even imagine, dude.
Oh, no.
I can't imagine.
You'd be freaking out.
Now, the house was put under 24-hour watch to prevent evidence from being tampered with, and red tape was placed over the doors, windows to reveal any disturbances.
Right.
But they had no clue who had done this.
No, pretty shocked.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, this is like 6:30 in the evening. Right after they'd eat, before she had time to go to that wedding. So it wasn't like it was in the middle of the night or anything.
I know. Now, on Christmas Eve, this was December 24th of 1989, Danny and his dad, James, were fighting again.
Yep.
And Danny left to wander the streets. And he came upon a house where he had watched a woman undress before.
Yep.
And he broke in, but she wasn't at home.
Right. Yeah, so he sat around and waited for her for a while and watched TV and listened to the stereo, and went over and started sampling some stuff from her bar, which was a pretty vast collection.
Yeah.
And so he stole about $30 worth of dimes, a fifth of liquor, and a .38 caliber pistol, and just left. He got tired of waiting.
Yeah, but nobody got killed that night.
Right.
Yeah.
Luckily, she wasn't home. So, yeah, good for her.
Mm-hmm. Now, on May the 18th of 1990, Danny and his dad got into another fight.
Right.
And this is when...
he decided enough was enough.
Yeah. James had pulled a gun on Danny.
Allegedly.
Supposedly he did. And it even reported that he actually shot toward Danny.
Yes.
But missed him.
Shot a little wide, as they say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is when Danny left the house and came back a little bit later with that .38 revolver.
Right.
And he came back and
he wasn't playing.
His shots didn't miss.
No.
He shot his dad once in the chest and once in the forehead.
Yep. And then he took off running.
Yeah, he left. But Danny's dad, James, was taken to the hospital. He did survive.
Yes.
I think he lost hearing in one ear and one eye.
Yeah, I think he lost an eye. I think he lost sight and an ear.
But Danny was on the run.
Right. That's when he broke into the home of Michael Kennedy and stole some handguns and then some ID papers from deceased Michael Kennedy Jr.
And he actually attempted to change his identity to Michael Kennedy.
Yeah. And I think he had called the hospital and then realized that his dad didn't die, which he was glad, but at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he knew. But he's still on the run.
Mm-hmm. But Danny was all over the place, man. He was robbing places. No telling how many women he had molested and raped during this time.
Yeah, he was even robbed the Westwood United Superstore and then took the money and then told them, please pray for me.
Yeah.
God knows I need it.
Yeah. Crazy, man.
Yeah. So his head's everywhere.
And on July the 22nd of 1990, Danny took a bus to Sarasota, Florida. And this is where he began to transition into Michael Kennedy Jr.
Right.
This is when he broke into the home of Janet Frake. Now, a little bit of background on Janet Frake. She was living in Sarasota, Florida, and she was between jobs. And she was living in a 2-bedroom house with 2 cats. And she was returning home from a run to a video store. And she had picked up a 6-pack of Keystone Gold beer. And she'd been roughly home for about 2 hours when Danny Rolling had slipped in through a bedroom window and attacked her in the bathroom with a hunting knife. This was this K-bar knife that we mentioned.
Yes.
And he was wearing leather gloves and a black ski mask. And Danny bound and gagged her with duct tape. And really, at first, she didn't think it was real. She thought somebody was trying to play a joke on her. But there was so much rage and anger in her that this is when she got scared.
Yeah, she realized right quick it wasn't no joke.
But she tried to stay as calm as she could. And one good thing about Janet, she was a crime junkie, dude.
Yep.
She loved the murder mysteries and true crime fiction, and she was into that stuff.
Yep.
And if she had learned anything, she learned to be calm.
Yeah. She's like, surely some of this could help me out.
Yeah, exactly. And when Danny was, I guess, done raping her for the first time,
Well, he said, we're going to do this all night long.
That's what he told her.
Yeah. And she's just trying to keep a cool head. And she goes, well, we could take a break. I got some cold beer in the refrigerator. If you like one, I'll get you one.
Yeah. And she brought him one in a glass, probably hoping to get some fingerprints.
Yeah, and said as soon as she talked to him like that, she could tell that the level of rage kind of come down a couple notches.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then she said that she did bring it in a glass hoping she could get fingerprints because she was always thinking ahead, which is really smart.
And he even allowed her to go take a shower.
Yeah, by herself.
Yeah. But what she did, she got a towel and I guess wiped herself down and hid the towel.
Yeah, a clean towel.
And hid it so he didn't see it.
Before she took her shower, yeah, and in that way she would have DNA. She kind of hid it behind the toilet, I think.
Yeah, that was very smart.
Yeah, for sure. So anyway, they got to talking and hanging out a little bit, and she got everything good, and I guess he'd done what he wanted to do, and then he even asked if it was okay if he took off his mask.
Yeah, ski mask.
Yeah, and she goes, no, you keep it on. I don't want to see your face, because she's thinking, as soon as that happens, you're going to kill me. So she didn't say that, but that's what she's thinking.
And they actually got along, well, to him, they got along good, but she was just trying to save her life.
Yeah, he thought he was in charge. It was basically her steering this whole deal. So,
yeah,
she was really smart, and told him a bunch of stuff. And then finally he's like, well, look, it's like 1:30 in the morning. It's probably about time for you to go. And he's like, yeah, you know what? You'll be right.
Yeah.
So with just, if this was a different time, I think we could probably date and get along. We'd get along really good. So would you at least give me 10 minutes before you call the cops?
Man.
And she goes, well, sure. So then he just rolled out into the night and was gone.
Yeah. Whew. But she did report it, but nothing had come of this because they didn't have any DNA on this guy.
Right.
Yeah. So nothing would come of this till later down the road.
Right. But her being so smart and on her toes and staying calm saved her life.
Yep. Now, Danny was in Florida, and he moved over to Gainesville, Florida. This is the home of University of Florida Gators. And it's a college town, and this was in 1990, Dale. Now, when Danny got into Gainesville, Florida, this was on August the 24th of 1990, he broke into the house of 2 college freshmen.
Right.
With an automatic pistol and his K-bar knife.
He had already been checking these girls out, too.
Yep.
So he already knew where he was headed.
Yep. These 2 college freshmen were Sonia Larson and Christina Powell.
Yes. So he broke into the house of these 2 college girls, and when he went in, he used a screwdriver to break in the door, and then he went in walking around, and he found Christina sleeping on the couch. So he went and stood over for her for a minute, but she was sleeping. So he just went ahead and headed upstairs.
Yeah.
And that's where he found Sonia Larson, and she was 17, sleeping in her bed. And that's when he put his hand over her mouth and then duct taped it and then stabbed her to death.
Yeah.
So then he went back downstairs, and she was still sleeping. So then he taped her mouth and bound her hands.
And he raped her before killing her.
Right. Yeah, he removed her clothes, fondled her. He forced her to perform oral sex on him. Then he raped her. Then he stabbed her 5 times, killing her.
Yeah.
Then he returned back to Sonia's body. Then he raped her.
Yeah, her dead body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then he fled away on the apartment, throwing all his evidence in a dumpster while riding away on his stolen bicycle. So he started to feel bad, and he found one of the girl's nipples in his bag.
What the heck?
So he had cut off Christina's nipples.
Wow.
And took her with him.
Yep. What's crazy is, dude, the very next night, he broke into the home of 18-year-old Krista Hoyt, who attended a nearby Santa Fe Community College.
Right.
And he waited for her to return home and then raped and stabbed her, rupturing her aorta. He cut off her nipples and decapitated her. Yeah,
this one was pretty damn bad.
Yeah.
When they first come to this crime scene, they went to go check in on this house, and they could see that they had some blinds. They looked in the blinds, and they could see the body in there, so they broke in and went to go look. Well, when they come into the bedroom, her body was posed like it's sitting on the bed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sitting there, but it has no head. He had cut her head off and then pulled a bookshelf over across the apartment
from another room
and set the head on the shelves of the bookshelf to look at the body.
Yeah.
And he also had really mutilated her breasts, basically cut them off and had them in a bag.
And there were bite marks on her too.
And had her nipples laying on the bed beside of her. And like he was going to take her to the breast or something, but he didn't. They were still there in the bag.
Mm-hmm.
So he is just escalated by miles.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to
get
off somebody's head. And then, I mean, what is he doing? This is like, does he think he's creating art or something in his head? I mean, is this like craft time? I mean, he that's his thing, is posing these girls. And he done it almost on every one that he killed, and even the last 2. And then one of them he always would leave them with their legs open with no underwear, so it was even making, like he's just trying to make it that much worse on these girls. And then even ones they would like put towels underneath their hips to push their pelvic up in the air even more.
Yeah.
So he's just, I don't know, he's just trying to more, what do you call it, desecrate?
Yeah, just humiliate them.
Yeah, humiliate them even more, right?
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
But so, yeah, he's a pretty sadistic fucker.
Yeah, no doubt about it. But now getting back to Christina Powell, they were unable to reach her. Their family wasn't able to reach her for several days, and parents, they traveled from their home in Jacksonville, Florida, and discovered her and Larson's body on the afternoon of August the 26th.
Right.
And this was in the early morning hours of the 27th. Police discovered Krista Hoyt's body after she missed her midnight shift. She was a clerk at the Alachua County Sheriff's Department.
Yeah, she worked for the Sheriff's Department.
Yeah. So yeah, that's when they discovered her.
Yeah, because she didn't show up for work, and they knew that was just not her. She was always there and always on time.
So that's Danny Rolling. He was on a tear.
Yeah.
And that night, as the news of all these murders ripped through the University of Florida, Danny struck again, breaking into the apartment of Tracy Paulus and Manuel Taboda.
Right.
Both were 23 years old, and Danny stabbed Manuel Taboda as he slept.
Right. Manny, as they call him.
Yeah, he was a former football player and pretty stout guy.
Yeah, big dude.
But I think he surprised him, and he woke up and started to fight back after being stabbed 31 times.
Yeah, he actually came in, and when he seen there was a big guy, he wasn't expecting that. And he plunged that knife into his abdomen. It went all the way through and out his back. And that's when he woke up and started fighting him. And yet, like you said, he ended up having to stab him 31 times to take him out. And later he would say that Manny almost got the best of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, even though he had been stabbed while he was asleep.
I think if he hadn't been asleep, he might have got him.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Tracy Paulus walked in on this attack, and this when she ran into the bathroom and locked the door. And Danny broke the door down.
Yeah.
He raped her for hours before killing her with 3 stab wounds to the back. Their bodies were discovered the following day. And according to the Orlando Sentinel, this is a newspaper, Tracy Paulus' last words were, "You are the one, aren't you?"
Damn.
Yeah, because she knew that was the one that was
doing all this mess.
Yeah, it was in the news. Now, another thing that went on during this time, the news was spreading throughout Gainesville. There was a serial killer on the loose.
Yeah.
And parents were taking their kids out of college,
right,
moving them away. They were people living together, 3 and 4 people living together, keeping watch. I mean, it was scary.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah.
He was even taking like the lobbies into the college dorm rooms and stuff, and making the commons like for people who were living alone could come and sleep there if they wanted to. Up to like 20 people living in, and just sleeping all together there just because they were all scared.
Yep. Now, the police, they actually focused on a guy named Edward Humphrey. He was a 19-year-old, and he was diagnosed with manic depression, who had some ties to the crimes and recently been arrested for assaulting his grandmother, who insisted that he didn't hit her.
Right. Well, I think his mother was the one who called the law on him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was their number one suspect.
Yeah, and they set his bail at $1 million.
Yeah.
For hitting his grandma.
Yeah.
That she said he didn't do.
That's how confident they were that he was this serial killer going on.
Either that or they were just trying to get the word out and calm everybody down.
Yeah, could be. Now, on August the 28th of 1990, Danny had robbed a bank. And I think the bank had actually put a dye pack in there that turned all the money pink or red or something. But Danny was living in the woods there in Gainesville. He had a little campsite with a guy named Tony Danzy, not Tony Danza.
No.
Yep.
Who's the boss?
Yep. And Danny was actually caught running from the police, and they discovered his campsite.
Right. Somebody had called in and said they saw a guy that looked like the man they were looking for, and he was out here talking to somebody. When they pulled up, him and Tony was talking, and he took off running.
Yeah.
So that's when they chased him through. He got away, but he run them right to his campsite.
Yeah.
Right.
This one they found all that money with the pink dye and a lot of stuff from these murders.
Right.
Yeah. So this is when they connected Danny Rolling to these murders that were going on there in Gainesville, Florida.
Yeah. And I don't know if they connected him right away, but they had to go through some of that stuff. But they knew that the cash was covered in the pink dye, so they knew they had to rob her. Yeah.
But all this going on, Danny Rolling had continued to his old ways of armed robbery. And on September the 7th of 1990, Danny walked into a Winn-Dixie supermarket brandishing a pistol. And there was an unidentified witness told the Ocala Star-Banner, he yelled out, "This is a robbery, get your money out." And the police quickly responded, and after a chase, they took Danny Rolling into custody. And he said, "Boy, you guys are good."
That was quick.
Yeah. Now on November of 1991, Danny was charged with 5 counts of murder. And he was brought to trial nearly 4 years after all these murders. And he claimed his motive was to become a superstar similar to Ted Bundy. Because remember, this was just right after Ted Bundy.
Yeah, it was like a year after he was executed.
But Danny Rolling unexpectedly pleaded guilty to all these charges because he didn't want all these graphic photos and videos shown in court.
Right.
And during his trial, Court TV conducted an interview with Rolling's mother from her home, during which his father could be heard shouting off camera. Now, on August the 20th, 1994, Danny Rolling was sentenced to death, and he was diagnosed with antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and paraphilia. He was sentenced to the death penalty, Dale.
Yes.
Yep.
Sentenced to death.
Yes, sentenced to death. But Danny Rolling was executed by lethal injection at Florida State Prison on October the 25th of 2006.
Yes.
After the Supreme Court rejected a last-ditch appeal, and he was pronounced dead at 6:13 p.m. He also, before he was executed, he had a last meal of lobster tail. And he sang a gospel hymn and made no statement before his execution, which was witnessed by many of his victims and their relatives. But Danny was labeled the Gainesville Ripper.
Yes. Yeah, when they came in to ask him for DNA, he actually dropped his pants, reached down and grabbed 2 handfuls of pubic hair and ripped them out and handed them to him.
Yeah.
And said, "Here you go." And I was like, damn, maybe that's why they call him the Ripper.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, but this guy, I mean, he is a lesser-known serial killer, but brutal, man.
Very brutal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he escalated really quick. I mean, as far as to where he went, I mean, he was just a peeping Tom to a robbery guy to a rape, and then when he started killing, he just went straight to the top as far as, killing people and mutilating their bodies and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But also, it does have a little famous twist to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was actually the subject or the
inspiration.
Inspiration to a movie.
A very popular horror movie.
Screenwriter Kevin Williamson created the 1996 slasher film Scream.
Yes.
That was based on Danny Rolling's murders.
Yeah, he was living in L.A. at the time, and he was house sitting for someone, and he had just watched a documentary on Danny, and then he's walking around the house, and all of a sudden he looked and said, the damn that window wasn't open, and he freaked himself out and went and got a knife and checked out everything, and he's going around the house, and he's just freaking himself out, and called a buddy, and he goes, look, you just need to calm down. And then they got to talking about horror movies that they love, and the guy was, going, be careful, Jason's probably behind the door, and they kind of had a good laugh about it. But after that, after he started calming down a little bit and got to thinking about the documentary he just watched, and then that's where he wrote Scream.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a whole lot of it. It's not really, I don't know, if you kind of base it the movie and what he did, I don't think it's that close. But maybe just parts of it or something inspired him.
Yeah. He is a pretty bad dude.
Yeah.
But really, from the get-go, he didn't have a chance, man.
No.
I mean, from his dad and his life, he didn't have a chance.
No. His dad's trash, man. Even in March of 1994, Danny's father actually beat his mother up and threw her out of the house, and she died shortly after that.
Yeah. Claudia.
So he never changed.
Yeah.
He's trash.
Yeah. All right. That is the Gainesville Ripper.
The Gainesville Ripper.
Danny Rolling.
Danny Rolling, yep.
We're going to get out here, dude.
Yeah, that's a rough one. Let's go.
Yeah, we want everyone to be safe. Be careful and always be aware of your surroundings.
Because the next episode could be about you.
This is
the Crack House Chronicles.